So it's New Year's Day, and my New Year's resolution is to get this thing up and running. I feel like I'd like a win on the first day of the year, so we're going to get it done today. Going to fix some of the problems that we've got and then get it running. It runs fine, but I want it running consistently, without leaks, without problems. There'll be some further power tweaks, and this isn't the final video, this is part 3, but there will be a part 4, and I'll tell you why at the end. There's a reason that we can't get as much power out of this now as we will be able to later on. So we're going to work on this. A couple of simple fixes really, nothing complicated. And then by the end of today, this thing's going to be spinning and producing power. Okay, so what were the bits that we had to sort out here? We had this, by the way, when you buy this from this company on eBay, it comes with an instruction manual which has 3 parts which it says in pencil. It's printed off, seems like it comes from the manufacturers. The bits that are scribbled out, it says there's a gasket for the bottom here, there's some gaskets between the nozzles and the box, and there's a washer for under here. And they're scribbled out, and then in pencil it says not needed. However, either I'm doing something wrong or they are needed, because the bottom here, I don't know if you could see, but the silicone just peeled off. It just doesn't stick to this plastic. It's some kind of non-stick, don't know what it is, but it doesn't stick to silicone. So every type of sealant I tried on the bottom here wouldn't stick, so it was leaking out the bottom. These here also, the sealant won't stick, so it means that these drip, although not as badly as that. And then the washer, it hits the nozzles if you don't have the washer on, so I had to add the washer as well. So you do need those 3 bits. So what I've done today is I purchased, it's like a little D-shaped rubber. It was my idea that that little recess there would sit in the lip here. It didn't. But it has compressed, which I'm hoping is going to create a better seal. The main areas it squirts out of the sides, because if you imagine the pressure going straight against the other side, so the seam, as in the join, is at the front, because that means there's a continuous rubber seal around all 3 other sides, and then the join is at the front, which is the area that's least likely to leak. The pressure gauges were dripping, so I've taken those off and added some more PTFE tape. And then generally just tighten these up all over the place, try and stop any drips. It was all right where we had it last, but I want this just to I want a good job. I want it not to leak, I want it not to drip. I want to come down here and it's bone dry in there. It's not going to happen, is it? But that's where I'm aiming to get towards. So I've done these 3 jobs here. We've got a couple more things to do up the top of the hill, so we'll start our journey all the way up again, and yeah, we're not far off now. Right, so I've changed the connectors up the hill. They were the bottle valves, but as you can see, they just burst out of the connectors. It would have worked, I think, had we used a different type of connector. Didn't have it. It's quite hard to get stuff here quickly. So I've just swapped it for a straight connector. And I have an idea, running up this hill, had an idea as to how to alleviate any air bubbles if there are any. I've left the connector down the bottom, so I'll go through that. I'll go through that when we get down there. But I have tested it with these like this, and it seems to work. I'll explain why at the top, but I think it was an error in how I imagined this system would work. The error that I made, or one of the errors that I made, was that I thought with these pipes, when you run it down the hill, I thought that if it's not at a constant gradient down, and it doesn't go up anywhere, but there are bits that's slow, I thought bubbles would accumulate in that, and then you'd have an airlock. And because both of the lines were having problems, I thought that was water glugging past the airlock. So I put those T-connectors and the overflow pipes in those places because I've seen that kind of stuff on YouTube. And I don't think there's the context sometimes as to where those pipes are being put. And there's a mention of air bubbles and stuff. So I just put them there thinking that's how it's done. I'm no expert on this, I'm just giving it a go. But when I thought about it, it wasn't working. And I was like, well, it can't work that way because I'm standing near where the inlet is. And if you've got all the pressure down to that point, it's just going to gush out, and you're effectively reducing the distance from the inlet to your turbine to the distance to the lowest outlet, if you know what I mean, because it just gushes water out. So I realised in principle, that's not how you do it. Some people say there's a siphon. If you're running on a siphon system, you don't need that. But this isn't running on a siphon either, because it's not a deadlock suction into the inlet. It's obvious when you think about it. But when I did have to sit there and think why isn't it working? And if it's on a siphon, then once you've got the siphon going, I think that's okay. But the risk here, because I'm dealing with natural puddles, is that you're just going to lose the siphon. You've got to come up here and restart it, all that kind of stuff. So I was like, well, how do you get bubbles out without dealing with this siphon? And I suddenly realised that it's not about the bubbles all the time. You just have to allow the pipe to fill. So once you've got a full pipe, it seems to be okay. So the solution that I came up with is to have one vent pipe. And I realise now, after watching the other YouTube videos, that this is what they were doing. It's just not immediately obvious or explained to somebody like me who has no idea what they're doing. It's not explained exactly where that goes. It's sort of expected that you know what it is. So you put one of the air release sections really close to your inlet, as close as you can get it really. So then, because it's higher than the inlet, as the pipe fills, the air can get out of there rather than trying to force its way back out of the pipe that's under the water. But that means you don't need any more of those down the line, because as long as you don't have any big uphill sections, the bubbles will flow all the way up the top and out of this pipe, whilst the inlet is still sucking water. So it kind of makes sense to me now. So that's why I've gone through these different versions of connectors and air release valves, because I didn't know that that's how it's supposed to be. I mean, I still don't know that's how it's supposed to be, I'm guessing. But that's what I've come up with. And then the second thing that was confusing me, or causing me all these problems, in fact, that one thing has caused almost all of the issues here. I'm going to do the job, and then I'll explain what it is. So it's to do with the inlet. So the issue that was causing me all this problem was that the mesh that I had on here before had too many layers and it was too fine. So it wasn't letting enough water in to keep up with any flow at the other end. It was like it would fill the pipe, but it was mosquito nesh, and I wrapped it around maybe 4 or 5 times, so it got covered with silt really quickly. And the way I figured it out was, well, I didn't figure it out, I just came up here and this pipe just wasn't filling, and I was like, well, if it's not filling, I wonder if there's a blockage on the end of the pipe. And I pulled the filter off, and it just went, and just the suction on the pipe was so much that you could kind of get your hand stuck on the end of it. So I was like, oh, well, it's not blocked, as in there's no blockage in the pipe. I had a closer look at these inlet holes that I've drilled, and they were kind of covered in a very fine layer of silt, like mud, and it just wasn't letting anything through. So all of my air bubble problems, all of my spitting at the other end of the jets, almost all of the problems had come down to I just used too fine a filter mesh and too many layers of it. So I've bought this off Amazon, which is, I think it's like girls' tutu material, like, you know, for the skirts that have kind of netting in it. And I was considering not using anything because the water here is very clear. It has these sort of holes to stop any major leaves going through it, but I thought I'd give it a go because I know it can damage the turbine if you let sand and stuff get through. So I've given this one revolution of a coarser mesh fabric, and I'm hoping, I don't know that's going to solve the problem, but in my head I was like, that's got to be it. So we'll see, and hopefully we're going to be good. So the other idea that I've had is to add a clear pipe here, because you can just see how it's behaving. If you've got a solid pipe, you can't see what's going on. So I thought this would be quite easy to just come up here and check quickly to see if there's any gulping air or anything. I'm aware that this is going to fill up with algae. It's my plan to put a collar around it so I can kind of pull the collar off, have a quick look, check everything's okay, and then put the collar back on to stop any light getting to the water. But it's fairly stable there. See it just sitting, the water level's just sitting there. So it's a quick and easy way of just seeing what's going on. Okay, so we've got both inlets at the top sorted out. Got the other pipes all connected. So I think we give this a go, see what happens. It's going to be interesting to see what PSIs we've got. Well, that went all the way up to 150 then. Worried about burst pipes. That's not supposed to be like that, is it? Right, so we've settled, what's that, 50, 75, 80 PSI-ish, and this one's settling a little higher, about 100. So the handy thing about YouTube is people give you a lot of advice and you don't necessarily have to seek out the experts in the first place, they just kind of come to you. So there's this chap in France who told me about his system. And you mentioned that somebody else mentioned this as well actually, that you have to get equal PSI between either side. So I may end up making a manifold for this, but for now I just want to get it running. He also gave me some other really good tips about, in fact everything in his comment was useful. He said about different nozzles. So I think I'm going to go back and have a look at that once we've got it operating and we're starting to deal with fine tuning. But for now, there's no leaks, no drips, which is good. I have to see what this does. But let's turn it on and see what we get. This is where I need 2 people really, or maybe 3, because I'm now limited. This is the reason there might be a 4th video coming out, because I can only input 150 volts into that ecoflow inverter battery bank thing that we've got, and the turbine's capable of a lot more than that. So, and I don't have anybody at the ecoflow to tell me what we're outputting, so I'm having to turn it on a little bit, walk all the way over to my inverter, which is all the way around the river. It's about a 10-minute walk. Go and check what we've got. So I've got no idea what we're outputting now, but I'm hoping it's not too much. And then we'll discover what we're actually outputting. Or we've blown up the ecoflow, and I'll have to go and put out a fire. Right, so we are currently outputting 63, it was 70 watts a couple of seconds ago, so let's say 65 watt, no, that's the volts, 65 volts, and I have just checked the ecoflow and it's putting out 100 watts at the moment, so yeah, 97, 99, 100 watts. So we can go and give that a couple more turns, turn that up by about twice what it's doing at the minute, and then we'll come back over the river and have another look, see what we're outputting then. Hopefully we'll be able to settle somewhere just below 150 volts. Right, I've turned each nozzle until both of them have hit 50 psi, so that's dropped it quite a lot, so we'll see what kind of power we're getting out of that now. But this is my solution for if we need to release any air from anywhere. So if there was any locked air in the system, I would go around, find the place, add this in, and then because this is just a valve on that side, I can just turn it, let the air and the water out, and then just close it. Just a way of kind of bleeding the system. Don't need to at the minute, but I might have to add them later, so I've got them just in case. Right, let's have a go. Let's have a look on the second run. 105 volts. And what's the wattage? 400 watts. Wow. I did not expect that to be 400 watts. I thought that'd be something. Oh, I've got a problem now. I'm gonna have to dump load it. Cool. I was kind of aiming for 300, 350. Because that was how much I would be able to use, like charging the battery. If I had any more than 300, 350, then I'm going to have to start putting the power somewhere else, because that will charge faster than we can use it. We don't use very much electricity at the minute. So, and my plan with dump loading at the minute is just to plug a heater in and then have it on a timer. So yeah, that's not bad actually. I feel like there's some more tweaking to do, as in might need a manifold, And I'm hoping so the reason there's 4 parts to this, not 3, because this is technically done now. The other 2 I didn't leave it on, but now I can just leave it going. All the leaks are done. Both pipes are running fine. I haven't got to worry about anything bursting or like an overflowing cap somewhere. So I'm going to do a fourth part to this, and the 4th part is going to be, I've got boxes and boxes in there. I've got batteries, I've got new inverters, all these goodies which are going to turn a temporary solution into a permanent one. And I've got a feeling that when we plug the hydro in something that's designed to take hydro, we should get a little bit more power out of it, because you can tune the controllers to get a better, more reliable voltage. I'm not sure what I'm doing yet, so we'll figure out how to do that later. But the part 4 will be what this turbine outputs on the proper electronics in there, instead of running it through a kind of battery box. So that's the kind of content you like. 400 watts, I'm pleased with that. Come join us the next one. It'll be nice to see you there, and we'll see you then. Got to go find my wife and son. They've disappeared up the hill somewhere, and I'm like, alright, I'll go find them. So messing around with that for a few more minutes. We got 500 watts, and the whole system cost us about somewhere between 1,500 quid and 2 grand, depending on whether you count all the extra spare fittings I've got. So I don't know what wattage that is per pound, but yeah, really pleased. We hit 500 watts, cost 1,500 quid. Was that 3 quid a watt? Yeah.